All right, let's dive right in. Welcome, focused learners. Today, we're jumping straight into a high-yield masterclass on Jaina philosophy. This is specifically structured to give you a really solid, conceptual, and absolutely exam-ready grasp of its core tenets. So if you're gearing up for the UGC NET, or honestly, if you just want a rigorously structured deep dive into Indian philosophy, this explainer is exactly where you need to be. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to scaffold our learning logically, starting with the Jaina theory of knowledge, moving into metaphysics and substance, then tackling the many-sided reality and the 7 forms of judgment. Finally, we'll wrap it all up with a comprehensive revision chart and a rapid-fire practice quiz. Let's get to it.
Section 1, Jaina theory of knowledge, from the ordinary to the omniscient. So how do we actually know what we know? To answer that, we have to start with Kevalajnana, or absolute omniscience. In Jaina philosophy, consciousness isn't just some accidental byproduct. It is the inseparable essence of every single soul. Think of the soul like the sun. It naturally radiates brilliant light. The only reason we don't know everything right now is because of karmas. These are physical, obstacle-creating matters that literally block the soul's light, kind of like clouds blocking the sun. When all those karmic obstacles are finally destroyed, Kevalajnana becomes fully manifest. You'll definitely want to note this down because this relationship between consciousness, karma, and the soul is a highly testable concept for the exam.
And this brings us to the twofold Jaina classification of knowledge. Let's walk through this hierarchy. First, we have mediate knowledge, or paraksa. This relies on the senses and the mind getting involved. It includes mati, which is your everyday sensory or memory-based knowledge, and shruta, which is knowledge you've heard or learned from an authority. Then, on the other side, we have immediate knowledge, or aparaksa. This is direct knowledge attained by the soul itself, bypassing the senses entirely. This category includes avadi, which is a sort of clairvoyance, manaparyaya, which is direct access to others' thoughts, basically telepathy, and finally, the ultimate peak, kevalajnana, absolute omniscience. The key takeaway for your exams? Ordinary immediate knowledge is always prone to error, but the higher forms of immediate knowledge are totally free from it.
Let's ground this in our everyday world by looking at the 4 steps of ordinary perception, or mayati. This cognitive scaffolding is super important. Picture this. You're sitting in a quiet room. Step 1 is avagraha. You simply grasp a distinct sensation, like hearing a random noise. Step 2 is aiha. Your questioning mind kicks in and you think, wait, what exactly is that sound? Step 3 is avashaya. You form a definite judgment and clear up any doubt. You say, that's just the sound of a car driving by. And finally, step 4 is dharana, the retention of that fact in your memory. I want you to focus heavily on these Sanskrit terms: avagraha, aiha, avashaya, and dharana. Identifying this exact sequence is a remarkably frequent pattern in previous year questions.
All right, moving on to Section 2, metaphysics and substance, the nature of reality. We've talked about how we know things. Now, what actually exists out there?
The crucial concept here is dravya, or substance. A substance is defined as something that possesses essential unchanging qualities, called guna, alongside changing accidental modes, called paryaya. This is brilliant because Jainism rejects the Buddhist theory of constant momentary change, while also rejecting the Vedantin theory of a completely unchanging absolute reality. For the Jainas, reality has to consist of 3 things at once: permanence, origination, and decay. Think about it. A soul remains a soul. That's the permanent essence, the guna. But its temporary state of pleasure or pain? That changes. That's the origination and decay of its modes, its paryaya. It's a system that beautifully embraces both permanence and change at the exact same time.
So, how do they categorize all this? Jainism classifies the entire universe into a really neat taxonomy. Let's start with astikaya. This translates to substances with spatial extension, literally meaning they take up physical space. This includes jiva, which are living conscious souls, and ajiva, the non-living things, uniquely covering motion, rest, space, and matter. But look right down at the bottom row, the non-extended category. Kala, or time. Time is the absolute only substance in this philosophy devoid of spatial extension. It exists, it's very real, but it doesn't take up physical space the way matter or a soul does. Seriously, highlight this in your mind right now. This single exception is a massive, highly testable fact you are likely to see.
Section 3, the many-sided reality, ekantavada. We know what substances are,
But how do Jainists describe the true nature of these complex objects?
You've probably heard the ancient story of the blind man and the elephant, right? It perfectly captures the core problem of human understanding. One man touches the trunk and confidently declares the elephant is like a snake. Another touches the leg and insists, no, it's a pillar. They argue fiercely because each imperfect being is only grasping one single aspect, or naya, of the object. The fatal philosophical mistake isn't being wrong. It's taking that partial truth and dogmatically claiming it's the exclusive, absolute whole.
And that elephant analogy? It leads us directly into the core doctrine of anekantavada. Let's break the word down. Aneka means many, and anta means aspects. This is the Jaina metaphysical doctrine that reality is extraordinarily complex. Every single object possesses literally innumerable positive and negative characters. To fully define an object, you would have to know exactly what it is, what it isn't, and how it relates to every other thing in the entire universe. So, to know one object fully is to mathematically know literally everything. As we learned a few minutes ago, that's something only a Kevali, an omniscient, liberated soul, can do. The rest of us? We're just holding on to different parts of the elephant.
Section 4, 7 Forms of Judgment, Sayadvada and Saptabhanginya. So reality has infinite aspects. How do ordinary humans talk about it without falling into dogmatic error?
The Jaina solution is Sayadvada. This is the epistemological principle that every ordinary judgment is relative and must be qualified by the word shat, which translates roughly to somehow or in some respect. It's basically a linguistic marker showing that you are speaking from a specific standpoint. Now pay very close attention to this because it's a huge trap for students. Do not confuse Sayadvada with skepticism. Shat absolutely does not mean maybe or I don't know. It means from a certain specific perspective. When you qualify your judgment with shat, what you're saying is perfectly valid and entirely certain within those specific conditions.
To structure these different perspectives properly, Jaina logic gives us the Saptabhanginya, the 7 conditional judgments. Now, don't let the 7 parts overwhelm you. Let's walk through the logic. The first 4 are the foundation. 1. Syat asti. Somehow the subject is P. 2. Syat nasti. Somehow it is not P. 3. Syat asti cha. Nasti cha. Somehow it is P and also not P. And 4. Syat avoktavyam. Somehow it is indescribable. The last 3 judgments are just logical combinations of the first 3 with that 4th one. Think of an earthen jug. When it's raw, it's black. When it's baked, it's red. So somehow, in respect to being baked, the jug is red. Somehow, in respect to being raw, it is not red. But if someone demands to know its absolute color, under all conditions across all of time simultaneously, you are forced to use that 4th judgment. Simultaneously, it is indescribable. Honestly, it's a complete masterclass in intellectual precision.
Section 5. Comprehensive Revision Chart. High-yield exam summary. We've covered a ton of profound philosophy. Let's lock it all in for the exam.
I highly recommend you pause the explainer right now or just take a quick screenshot. Let's rapid fire through these vital connections. Kevalanjana is your epistemology keyword for absolute omniscience. Mati and Sruta, that's your ordinary, mediate knowledge. Moving to metaphysics, Dravya is the substance possessing both essential and accidental characters, Guna and Paryaya. Don't forget that Kala, or time, is your crucial non-extended substance. Finally, Anekantavada is the ontological view of a many-sided reality, while Shadvada is the logical practice of qualifying judgments with shat. Having these sharp distinctions memorized is going to save you so much crucial time on the exam.
Section 6. UGC NET Practice Quiz. The crucial part of any masterclass is application, right? Let's see what you've retained.
Here are our first 3 questions on epistemology and perception. Question 1. According to Jaina philosophy, which of the following is absolutely immediate knowledge? A. Mati, B. Shruta, C. Avadi, or D. Kevaladhyana? Question 2. The stage of perception where doubt is removed and a definite judgment is formed is called what? A. Avagraha, B. Iha, C. Avaya, or D. Dharana? And question 3. True or false? Jaina epistemology accepts the Karvaka view that perception is the only valid source of knowledge. Got your answers? Okay, let's review. Question 1 is D, Kevalajana. Remember, Mati and Shruta rely on senses, so they are mediate. Kevalajana is direct soul knowledge. Question 2 is C, Avaya. That's where the definite judgment is formed. And question 3 is false. Jainas definitely accept perception, but they also accept inference and testimony as perfectly valid sources of knowledge.
Let's keep the energy high. Moving right along to metaphysics. Question 4. Which substance is categorized as non-extended? A. Jiva, B. Akasa, C. Kala, or D. Pudgala? Question 5. The accidental or changing characters of a substance are known as what? A. Guna, B. Paryaya, C. Dravya, or D. Astikya? Question 6. Jaina metaphysics describes reality as comprising A. Pure permanence, B. Pure momentary change, or C. Permanence, origination, and decay. All right, the answers. For question 4 at C, Kala. Time is the absolute only substance that does not take up physical space. Question 5 is B, Paryaya. Guna is permanent, Paryaya is changing. And question 6 is C. Reality comprises permanence, origination, and decay. It resolves those extreme views of Vedanta and Buddhism perfectly.
Next up, logic. Question 7. The ontological theory that every object has innumerable characters is called A. Syadvada, B. Anikantavada, or C. Saptabhanginaya. Question 8. In Saptabhanginaya, the fourth form, Syat Avaktavyam, means what? A. Somehow S is P, B. Somehow S is not P, or C. Somehow S is indescribable. Question 9. The blind men and elephant analogy primarily illustrates the fallacy of A. Absolute skepticism, B. Exclusive predication, or C. Illusion. Let's see how you did. Question 7 is B. Anikantavada. Emphasize this critical distinction. Anikantavada is ontological, dealing with what exists. Syadvada is logical, dealing with how we speak. Question 8 is C. Indescribable. And question 9 is B. The fallacy of making exclusive dogmatic claims.
And finally, a classic UGC NET assertion and reason question. These can be tricky. Assertion A. Jainas insist that every judgment should be qualified by a word like syat. Reason R. Jainas are absolute skeptics who believe truth can never be known with certainty. Your options? 1. Both true, R is the correct explanation. 2. Both true, R is not the correct explanation. 3. A is true but R is false. Or 4. A is false but R is true. Okay, let's break this down. The correct option is 3. The assertion is absolutely true, but the reason is entirely false. As we discussed, syat denotes relativity and specific context. It absolutely does not denote uncertainty or skepticism.
So what does this all mean for us? Ultimately, studying these ancient frameworks goes way beyond just acing an exam. If reality is truly infinite and our everyday knowledge is strictly partial, how will you apply the intellectual tolerance of Syadvada to your next great academic debate? Understanding Anikantavada doesn't just help you clear the UGC net, it genuinely makes us more open-minded, nuanced thinkers, deeply aware that our own perspective is just one small part of that great elephant. Keep studying, keep questioning, and I will see you in our next explainer.